Hello guys, and welcome to the next video. In this video we're going to be setting up the player movement. So the first thing we're going to do is just delete everything in the scene real quick, just because I don't want those objects. And we're going to go ahead and click the 2D button right here. And then we're going to go ahead and go to Game Object, 2D Object, and we're going to go ahead and make a sprite. We're going to go ahead and apply the grass ground along to this sprite. It's a bit big, so I'm gonna click 3D real quick. I'm gonna click focus. Yeah, that's just way bigger than we need it. So what we're gonna do to fix this is I think it might be that way. Yeah. See, it's kind of backwards. If you put a bigger number in, it gets smaller. And if you put a smaller number in, it gets bigger. So it's kind of interesting like that. But to make sure that this isn't some really weird scale, I'm going to go ahead and put a capsule in. And this is usually pretty much the scale reference for stuff. As you can see, it's way too big. So yeah, it's still way too big, so we're gonna make it even smaller. Let's make it about 5 and see if that's small enough. And we're just gonna put them both at 0. Yeah, this part you don't have to do. You can just go ahead and this is just so that if you run into this problem while you're developing, you know how to fix it, and it's still way too big. So we're gonna try 20 and see if that's right. That's almost there. Let's try about 30. 30's still a bit big. So let's go ahead and try 50. Alright, so that's about the right size. So the capsule is what most people use as a scale reference for like characters and stuff. So this is generally the size of a player in a game. So that's just the best object to use for that. So now that we got the correct size, which is 50 in the inspector, so in case you missed that, you go ahead and click on ground long, and then you go to pixels per unit and put 50 in there. The smaller this number is, the bigger the object is in the scene. So yeah, it's backwards from the normal way of doing it, but it works. So well, now that we got a ground, it's gonna need a collider. So we're gonna go ahead and click add component and go to physics 2D and go to box collider 2D. And now you can have collision with this object. So we're also going to need something to use as a character. So right now we're just going to use the idling part of the character. He's not going to have any arms because we're going to add those later, possibly the next video. But for now we're just going to use the idling animation. And so we're just going to go ahead and drag that in here. And as you can see, he's way too big again. But first we gotta name the animation for this, and since this is the idling animation, we're gonna name it idling. And I'm gonna change the pixels per unit to 50 as well, and see if that's the correct size. Yeah, that looks about right. So I'm going to put him at 0 and 0. So I just put X and Y at 0. The Y axis is up and down, so I'm going to leave that. And he's going to need a collider as well, so let's add a physics 2D and another box collider. And that's precise enough. We don't need to go much more precise for this type of gameplay. But he's also going to need a physics. So if we went ahead and clicked play now, you'd see that I forgot to add a camera to the scene. So let's go ahead and add a camera. So that's going to be on game object and then camera. And I'm going to put X at 0, Y at 0. I'm going to put this at 10. And we're going to put this at 180. And now you can see, we can see the scene. But one thing we want to change real quick is change the projection. So this is going to be in your inspector tab, and you're going to go over to projection, and you're going to set it to orthographic. Sorry. And now you can see, instead of it being like a normal view, it's kind of just a flat view, which is what we need for a 2D game. So that works perfectly. Alright, so back to where we were. If I click to play now, you can see that he just sits there and plays his animation, which is going way too quick. And how we can make him fall down is by adding a rigid body. And since this is 2D, it's going to be a 2D rigid body. So in case you missed that, I went to Add Component, Physics 2D, and Rigid Body 2D. And now when we click the play button, you can see he fell down. I'm just going to put him up a little bit higher. Yeah, he falls a bit slow, but we're okay with that for now. Alright, so now we're going to need to make a script. So let's go ahead and make another folder. So you're going to go to the project tab, and if your tabs are all different than mine, you can fix that by going to layouts, and you can go to default, and it should look pretty much exactly like mine does. So in case your stuff is all messed up, just go to window, layouts, and default. So once you've done that, I'm going to go ahead and go to Assets, right click, Create Folder, and we're going to name this Scripts. In the Scripts folder, I'm going to right click and click Create and C# script, and we're going to name this one Movement. Or, yeah, well, yeah, we'll go Movement. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and double click this now, and it should open up monodevelop, which usually takes a little bit of time. Yeah, I do wish monodevelop was a little bit faster. If you do get this pop-up, just allow access. Alright, so I usually just delete these. But we are going to use both of them, so I'm going to leave them. It's just a habit of mine to just delete those right away. But we're going to need a few variables, like the speed that he moves and gravity and jump speed and that type of thing. So let's go ahead and make a few variables. So the first variable we're going to make is move or run speed, I guess. So it's going to be public float, and what a float is just it's just a number, but a float can have decimal points like this. So that's all a float is. So this float is going to be named run speed, and we're going to make this speed equal to 3. I'm not sure if that's what it's going to end up being, but that's my best guess for now. We're also going to need another float. Also, public makes it so that you can see it in the editor and so that other scripts can access it. But don't worry about the other scripts accessing it. Right now, all it really matters for you is that you can see it inside the editor. So we got another public float, and we're going to name this float jump speed, I guess. And we're going to make that one 5. And we're going to make a float for gravity. And this is just to adjust the gravity. And we're going to make this one 3. And we're going to need another float for the rigid body just to, well, we can make this one private and make it so that it gets component. Well, I think we're going to stay out of get component for now. It's not too complicated, but just to keep this simple, I'm just going to make a public rigid body 2D, and we're going to name this rig, and we'll apply that inside Unity. I'll show you that in a minute here. Now, I don't think we're going to use start since we're not applying the rig automatically, so I don't think we're going to use the start function. But we are going to use update. So, but first, let's. I'm going to show you what this did real quick. So I'm going to save this. You can go to File Save or Control S, and I'm going to go back to Unity, and I'm going to put this on our player. Let's go ahead and rename him from idling 0 to player. Player. There we go. You gotta click enter on that as well. Okay, so first we gotta add a script to this so that you can see the variables we just made, but I'm just gonna minimize all this spam kind of, and all you're gonna do is drag the script into the inspector while you have the player selected. So you gotta make sure you have the player selected and then drag the script on to his stuff in the inspector. So now you can see all the variables we just made. You may notice that there's a space in them, and the first one is capital, and we didn't capitalize those. Unity automatically capitalizes the first letter, and every time you put a capital letter in it, it puts a space in, so don't worry about that. But you can see this rig right here, and we got to drag our rigid body 2D onto there. Alright, so now that we've done that, we can go ahead and go back to the script and go inside update, and we're going to go ahead and set up some inputs. So we're going to use left shift to jump. So I'm going to make an if statement. So if input dot get key down, and key code dot left shift. I'm going to use left shift for jumping right now. I plan on using space for shooting, that's why I'm using shift for jumping. You can make it spacebar if you want to. All you gotta do is dot space, but I'm just going to use left shift. And then you need an open curly bracket and a closed curly bracket. So anything that happens between these two curly brackets is going to happen when you push